Continuing Parshas Balak, we're in the middle of Ois Tes. So in Likutei Sichos Parshios, that would be Balak, page 173. And so we're in the right-hand side, second paragraph. Okay. We'll recap after we do this paragraph. So we'll finish the Ois first. Das is Oich, and this is also der Biur in dem was Char Pinchas is Bris Kehunas Olam. What happened? So in the story, just to remind ourselves, so there was a leader of a tribe, the tribe of Shimon, who did a terrible thing. He went and he was had intimate relations with a non-Jewish woman, a Midianite, and then Pinchas, the grandson of Aaron, which would make him the great nephew of Moshe, came running to Moshe and asking him, what do we do? And Moshe forgot at the moment the halacha, and Pinchas reminded him and told him, you taught us that if a Jew has relations with a non-Jewish person, so if it's still during the act, zealous individuals can kill the person. In other words, once the act has been finished, and then there's witnesses, and they come and they take him to court, he will not be put to death for this sin by the court. However, a unique type of a situation here where, like taking the law into your own hands, so to say, that one who is zealous, no, it's not open for anybody to do it. One who is truly zealous, and again, if it's during the time, on the spot, he would put him to death. So he reminded that of Moshe. So then Pinchas says, okay, so who should do it? So Moshe tells him, as the expression goes, the one who reads the edict document should be the one to execute it. So Pinchas ran, took a spear, and killed them both. And then the Torah says that Hashem was very pleased with this, and as a reward, Pinchas earned the priesthood. He became a kohen. Now, the question is, how do you become a kohen? You're either a Jewish male descendant of Aaron, then you're a kohen, and if not, you can't buy kehuna. So originally what happened was, even though he's a grandson of Aaron, the reason he was not a kohen up to this point is because he was older, meaning when Aaron became a kohen, Hashem made Aaron and his 4 sons kohanim, and from that point on, all future male descendants of Aaron would be kohanim. Pinchas was already born at that time, so he was not included in the priesthood. If he had younger brothers, they would be, because they weren't born yet. So therefore, Pinchas was not a kohen, even though his father was and his grandfather was. However, by doing this great act, this zealous act, then Hashem gave him Bris Kehunas Olam, the covenant of priesthood forever. That was his reward. So this is also the explanation in why the reward for Pinchas was the covenant of eternal priesthood. Afal pias kehuna is an inyan fun teva, even though kehuna, priesthood, is something of nature, meaning, as we said, you need to be Jewish and a male and born in a direct paternal line to Aaron. So it's a natural state of being. It's a natural state of holiness. It's like a tribunal affiliation. It's it's by birth. Yet, weil wie bald as der Chet von Zimri, so since this sin of Zimri, that's the name of the leader of the tribe of Shimon, his sin, was hat arois gebracht, Hanos Pinchas, which that act, that sin, brought out the zealous act of Pinchas, is bashtanen, was in aropnemen. In other words, what was his sin? How would you describe or define the actual sin itself? We understand that the act was a forbidden act, and that's what he did, and that's a sin. But what type of a sin was it? So what he did was he took down the Havdalah, the separation, Shebein Yisrael Lo Amim, that Hashem made between the Jewish people and the nations. In other words, there's no intermarriage allowed. Hashem made a separation between the Jews and all the other people of the world, all the other nations. And Zimri went against that. Vos is, and this separation is bidugmas, it's akin to, quoting the verse back in creation in the beginning of Bereshis, Vayavdel goimer, and Hashem separated, etc., bein ha'or uvein ha'choshech, between the light and the darkness. Kanal, which stands for kanizkar la'el, as mentioned above. So just as there's a separation in creation, it's part of nature. The 6 days of creation, Hashem is creating what we call nature. So part of that is that there's a separation between dark and light. The same word is what's used by separating Jews from non-Jews. Or for that matter, Kehanim from non-Kehanim. And here, Zimri went against the separation of Jews and non-Jews, which is like going against nature. The Riber, therefore, is quoting the verse by Pinchas in our parsha here in Balak. In Pinchas. Tachas asher kinei lelekov. Tachas, because of, literally it means under. In other words, in place, because that he was zealous for Hashem. That's why he receives as a reward the priesthood. Now we explain. Hoter bakum in dem schar, he received the reward, mida keneged mida, measure for measure. It's exactly, he earned this reward. Because now he receives priesthood, so it shall be for him and for his descendants after him, bris kihunas haOlam, this covenant forever. Yeah. Okay, so basically, what we were saying until now is if you follow the order of the nature, the way that Hashem created everything, when a Jewish man has intimate relations with any non-Jewish woman, naturally, biologically, it should not ever be able to produce a child. She should never be able to conceive and become pregnant and give birth to a child. It shouldn't work as part of nature. So the question is, well, why does it then? Why shouldn't it work? Because just as Hashem, the creator, made all of these things which we call nature, biology, male, female, and the sperm and the egg, etc., 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 the whole system. So likewise, there are certain things that Hashem put into place in creation. There's day, there's night, there's dark, there's light, and certain things can come together and certain things cannot. So just as biologically, even in the crazy, messed up, disgusting world that people make today, but still, two males cannot produce a child. It goes against the very fiber of creation. Two females cannot produce a child. That's a fact. Even with all the altering and whatever all they're doing, but they're taking from this to that. So too, even though the Jewish man is male and the non-Jewish woman is female, so as far as that goes, it should work. But because behind it is the power of procreation, which itself is a gift that was given, that really we shouldn't be able to reproduce, and yet Hashem made a system and he gave a gift that we, so to say, become partners with him, and we can. So we're partners in creation. But since there is a separation between Jew and non-Jew, it shouldn't work. So why does it work? Because we have to have freedom of choice. And then we actually even said in one of the footnotes, footnote 45, we actually said that the very fact that non-Jews can reproduce. So the second reason we gave two reasons. The second reason is that there should be freedom of choice. Because if people see that these Jews are a different breed, even physically and biologically, it would be like saying if all Jews had horns, and if you're not Jewish, you don't have horns if you're a human, and if you're Jewish, you have horns, then you'd see there's something different about them, and there wouldn't really be so much room to say, well, they're not really the chosen people, and the Torah is not really. So therefore, the Jew and the non-Jew physically are identical. And it's not like, the Jew is born circumcised, the non-Jew is born uncircumcised. That would take away freedom of choice. So therefore, the Jew is born uncircumcised, as is the non-Jew. So too, the non-Jews are able to have children just like the Jews can. So similarly, for a Jew to make a very, very terrible, bad choice and to have a child with a non-Jewish woman, that would physically work, and the person has that choice, and that's in order for us to have freedom of choice. Otherwise, the person would realize that, obviously the Torah is absolutely true, and then we wouldn't have a choice to accept it or to go against Hashem's will. Okay, Yud, top of the left-hand column. Ot der inyan, this very idea, beim chet, by the sin, fun boyel aramis, of having relations with a non-Jewish woman, was durch ihm, that through that sin, vert ariber getrogen, becomes transferred, carried over, Rachamona Litzlan, the acronym Reish Lamed. Here it stands for Rachamona Litzlan, which is a phrase which literally means, may Hashem, the All-Merciful One, protect us. Like whenever we say something very terrible that should never happen, don't want it to happen. So Rachamona, it's similar to perhaps a more well-known phrase of Chas v'Shalom, which is loosely translated as heaven forbid. So the sin over here of a Jewish man having relations with a non-Jewish woman is carrying over their koyach ha'ein sof, this gift that the Jew really has of the power of the potential, the ability of infinity in leumas zeh, in the other side, lahavdil, to make a separation, is nor b'shas maise, is only at the time. It's, in other words, you can't permanently do it. It's temporary. When a Jew, by doing this sin, is able to take what he has, which is the ability of Ein Sof, of infinity, which that's a godly thing. Nothing physical is really infinite. So the Jew, being a Jew, has this ability, this soul power of infinity, but he's transferring it now to a non-Jewish woman. It only happens during the act of the sin. And now we explain. By all other sins, whatever they may be, even the worst, Hagam, although, as their koyach, that the soul power, the strength, funefesh olikis, of the godly soul, which a Jew has, hamalubash, which is enclosed, b'maise ha'avera, in the actual act of sin, whatever the sin may be, hot yered given, descended, in gimel klipas atmeis. It's true, it went down to the three, completely forbidden, impure. That's true. While a Jew does any avera, any hate, any sin of the 613, anytime he's sinning, so at the time, it's true that his godly soul is enclosed in that act. Bleibt aber, however, he remains noch als still a koyach von kedusha. It's still a power of sanctity. It's just that it went down, it descended into the klipa, but it didn't lose its identity. The tragedy of any time a Jew does any sin is that he's taking this holy energy and he's bringing it down into where it does not belong, where it's not allowed to be. So that's terrible. That's it. That's what's happening. But it still remains holy energy. It is only was der koyach von dem nefesh haElokis, that's the acronym, Nun Hey Aleph, nefesh haElokis. It's merely that the energy of the godly soul, vert nivla, becomes, so to say, swallowed up in these doinois, in those sins that were done on purpose. As doinois means sins that are done on purpose, intentional sins. Welche seinen auf ihm ma'alim, which are concealing over it, over the godly soul. So that energy is now concealed because it went down, it sunk into klipa. But it didn't become bad itself. Und der Riber, and therefore, can der choite, the sinner, is able, durch sein tshuva, through his teshuva, ma'ale sein, to elevate them koyach, this energy, surik, back in kedusha, into holiness.
What happens if it's an actual person now?
Oh. Okay. Now that's exactly the next point.
Okay.
That becomes a whole discussion. Correct. See, any other sin, well, okay, before we even read it inside, any other sin, it's all Star Wars of spiritual war.
Right.
There's nothing physically tangible. When a Jew sins, even the worst, so he's taken godly, holy energy and put it where it doesn't belong. And therefore, okay, so just pull it out.
Yeah.
Even if he did something irreversible, such as murder, so he can't bring the person back to life.
Hmm.
But the energy, it's just energy. So we don't see energy. We just see results. Well, what do we know? So therefore, if we're taught that by doing teshuvah, he pulls it out, we can accept that. We can believe that. Okay, but however, now, top of 174.
Okay.
When afilu infal, even in this extreme case, which is what you mentioned, then when a person does the following sin, not that the Jew is having relations with a non-Jewish woman, rather, bo al ha'erva, if a Jewish man had relations with any woman that is categorized as erva, which means he's biblically forbidden to have relations with her, and if he does, it's a capital offense. Okay, so it's a whole list of people. Again, it's a person that biblically he's forbidden to have relations, and if he were to have relations with her, it would be a capital offense. Mamzer, and he had relations, he sinned, and this would even apply if it was unintentional. And then from that union came a birth. That Jewish child is a mamzer, a Jewish legal bastard.
Now, Rabbi Turen, we're talking about, I'm sorry, you might have already stated, a Jewish man with a Jewish woman that he's forbidden.
That's right.
Okay,
then
sorry.
It's a capital offense.
Thank you.
In other words, it is his own sister, his own daughter, his own mother, another Jewish man's wife, any of those. So if he had relations with any of those, and as a result of that, she gave birth, that child has a legal status called a mamzer, which the translation in English is bastard, but it's a legal term. It's not just an insult. And a mamzer is 100% Jewish, as we discussed earlier. However, he is so blemished that he cannot marry anyone except for one of his kind. If there is another woman who's a mamzeres, who's a female mamzer, so he would be allowed to marry her. But otherwise, he definitely cannot marry anybody who's not Jewish, because he is Jewish. And he cannot marry any Jew who is not like that. So
zar means seed. What's seed in Hebrew?
That's zera with an ayin.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
No, that's not part of this root.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
So we actually said earlier that having relations with a non-Jewish woman is even worse than bringing a mamzer, because even though mamzer is a capital offense, and he brought about a person who is blemished, but nonetheless, that person is 100% Jewish. As we said, that person can even take precedence over the high priest. If the mamzer is a Torah scholar and the high priest is ignorant, then you have to respect the mamzer more.
He's still going to have connection to Torah. He's still going to probably get circumcised or whatever.
Absolutely. He's obligated in keeping all the mitzvahs, and the only mitzvah that he's stuck with is having children and getting married. Those things he's stuck. But otherwise, he's absolutely obligated in all mitzvahs. He counts as a minion.
He's stuck in Torah. He's still stuck in Torah, though, basically. Rather than the non-Jew, they have there's no concept of Torah yet.
Correct.
It's like lost.
So in that case, Vosdan then it falls into the category. This is a verse that the Talmud uses. Me'uvas means something twisted, something messed up, something wrong. That shelo yuchal, that is unable liskain to become fixed. Certain mistakes you can't undo. We don't always say if it's broken, you can fix it. That may be the general rule, but sometimes if it's broke, you cannot repair it. All right. I don't know how it works with plumbing, but sometimes
Yeah.
it is not
It's shot.
fixable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it says over here that if somebody, this is an example of the application of this verse, that see, if somebody had relations, but there was no child born from it, even though it was a capital offense, and it's the worst thing, he had intimate relations with his mother, his daughter, his neighbor's wife, any of those, he can't do teshuvah, and the teshuvah can actually undo the act.
Hmm.
But if because of the sin, there's a walking, talking, breathing, functioning human being, a Jewish mamzer, well, what's the tshuva going to help?
I'll try to make this a quick story, but I do genealogy, and I was talking with somebody who um the child wanted to be reunited with the father, and the father responds to me and says, I can't believe that what I did produced a child.
Wow,
You know,
wow.
and it's like, yeah, it's actually, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was an adopted child, and
And they got reunited?
no, they're still thinking about it. So, but it was just a interesting response from the father, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Huh. Izes belois benegea zum tikun achet. So again, we're stressing over here the severity of a Jewish man having relations with a non-Jewish woman, that's worse. Are you going to tell me, what do you mean? What about producing a mamzer? That's only with regards to the rectification where you're stuck. It's only that he can't fix it. Vile, because as the Talmud says, or as Rashi rather explains on the Talmud, avoinoi, his sin, golui, is revealed. It's open. The niskar and is remembered. Kolzman shemamzer kayim, as long as the mamzer is alive. You know, it's
Hmm.
once the mamzer dies, then he could really do teshuva and actually, well,
Hmm.
so to say, fix the problem. But as long as the guy is still breathing, he's still alive, all the tshuva in the world that he does, the highest levels of tshuva, the highest forms of tshuva, what's that going to help? His
Wow.
sin took on the form of physically revealed. There's this person.
Yeah.
So that's the only aspect where having a mamzer is the worst thing. But we want to say that a Jewish man having relations with a non-Jewish woman, even if it doesn't produce a child, well, besides the fact that the child would not be a mamzer, but even if there's no child produced from there, it's still a worse sin. It's only with regards to the rectification that the mamzer is worse. Um,
This is so interesting.
you see, there is actually a story that the Rebbe Rayatz, the sixth Rebbe, records in his introduction to a book, a pamphlet, a booklet of the Mitzvah Rebbe, the second Rebbe, Rebbe Doiv Ber, the Alter Rebbe's son,
Hmm.
where the sixth Rebbe explains to us for whom this was originally written, this booklet of the second Rebbe. It was for a particular Baal Teshuvah, and it's a very long story, but basically, there was a person, a Jew, who ended up living with or marrying a non-Jewish woman and having children. And then when he wanted to do teshuvah, it's like, well, he produced children, not
Yeah.
mamzerim, but he produced children,
All right.
and it's a very long story. And the end was that as a result of his deep tshuva, there was an accident, and those children those, you would say, innocent children,
Mm-hmm.
got killed.
Mm.
And they didn't want to tell him, the people of the town. He was very, very sick himself at the time. And they didn't want to tell him because they thought that would just, do him away. They didn't realize that he was sick because he was trying to get Hashem to completely forgive him. And had they told him that, it would have actually given him new life. So it's a very complicated situation. But there is a concept of a person doing such teshuvah that the mamzer would die. But again, that just opens up a whole other, thing of problems, because what did the whole topic of a mamzer, there's a lot to talk about. What did he do wrong? Why is he disqualified from being a kosher Jew? Why don't you penalize his parents? What did he do wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And B, why would he be deserved to die? He didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
So, but be that as it may, only with regards to producing a mamzer is there a problem with that teshuvah can't really undo what the person did. And now in the brackets, und wie der Alter Rebbe is masbir, and as the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya at the end of chapter 7, as a yois, that since wieder chayus was is gekommen lo'olam hazeh, since this energy, the spiritual energy of life that came down into this physical world, into the mamzer, is nislabish geworden, this energy, which is anytime someone sins, they're taking the energy away from where it belongs and putting it into the klipa. So since this energy enclosed itself, beguf basar v'dam, in a body, a physical body, of flesh and blood, was is bashafen geworden, that was created durch der avera, through the sin. So it's like the person, so to say, forced the hand of Hashem to create this person. He cannot elevate dem chayus in kedusha. You can't take that spiritual holy energy and get it out of the klipa. That can only be done as long as it's not enclosed in something physical. But once it's in this physical human called a mamzer, it cannot be elevated, unlike every other case of any other sin.
And I'm assuming that's tied to free choice, because now it's under the of a person, another person's free choice. Does that have something like another person's seichel? Is that kind of like the idea, the concept?
No, well, the problem is that the sinner who produced the mamzer, so even if that sin was without his choice, it was a mistake. He didn't realize. Okay, he didn't know. The problem is the product, because the godly energy is enclosed in a physical living human being.
But that new person has a seichel. It's like I wasn't talking about the seichel of the original father.
Right. No, but that doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
It's the fact that it's enclosed in a living physical person. It's not that the person has seichel and choice. It's that the godly energy is in a physical body. That's the problem.
Okay. Thank you for answering that.
But nonetheless, wie bald as euch der mamzer is bichlal yisrael nechshav. Now that was all like the question. Now we're showing the flip side. Now we're going to say, but after all said and done, why it's still not as bad as a Jew having relations with a non-Jew. At the end of the day, though, this mamzer is considered a Jew. He's 100% Jewish. He's a blemished Jew, There's limitations, but he is Jewish. Is afilu be'ester chayus. So even at the time that this spiritual energy is melubash in them, mamzer is enclosed in this human being, this physical body of a mamzer, is es noch als a chayus fun kedusha. It still is chayus, energy, life, vitality of kedusha, of holiness. It's just enclosed in a body, and therefore, for the sinner to rectify it, it's impossible. He can't undo it, but it still remains in its state of kedusha. Going back to what we said earlier, that aside for this sin of having relations with a non-Jewish woman for a Jew, aside for that, any sin takes the godly energy and puts it into the forbidden klipos, but it still remains when it's in exile, when it's entrapped in that place, it still remains its identity of being energy of kedusha, and that's the tragedy of the sin. But it still remains kedusha. Under next paragraph, under riber, and therefore, haben aveiros ahemshech, and for that reason, sins have a continuation. Oich la'achrei asiyas haveira, even after the sin was performed. It's not just, well, while doing the sin, so then this and this happened. As soon as the person stopped sinning, back to normal. Nope. Varum, kol zman, because as long, tut nit kein shuva, as long as the person didn't do teshuva for the sin, even though he did the sin 10, 50 years ago, it doesn't matter. As long as he did not yet do teshuva, gefindt sich a koyach von kedusha ins doinois. So that energy of kedusha that he used to do the sin is still found in that, so to say, place called intentional sin. So it doesn't matter the fact that he stopped doing it and he doesn't do it anymore. As long as he didn't yet do teshuva, that means he didn't pull out that energy from the klipa. Masha'ein kain. However, this is not the case in the case punboyal aramis, of the sin of a Jewish man having relations with a non-Jewish woman. Vibald, since as gleich, that immediately vider chayus gate ariber, as soon as this energy of the Jew, this holy spiritual energy, is transferred, it's transported suder aramis, to this non-Jewish woman, vertes uis kedusha. It becomes non-kedusha. No other sin has that. It became no longer kedusha. It lost its status. It's just like physically, that child that will be born from that woman is not Jewish. What do you mean? Biologically, it came from a Jewish seed. It doesn't matter.
And what is it that was no longer kedusha?
The chayus, the energy that even when a Jew sins and it's in the klipa, it still is considered normally every other sin kedusha.
Yeah.
Here, it's no longer kedusha. It lost its status, its state of kedusha.
Now, we're not talking about the nefesh elokis anymore.
We're talking about the energy of the nefesh elokis of this Jew.
Really? The energy of the nefesh elokis or the nefesh elokis?
Well, no. I mean, the Jew still has a nefesh elokis even after he did that sin. He still is a living Jew, and he still does other mitzvahs.
Because I thought the nefesh elokis could not. It can only be entrapped. It can never.
That's exactly the rule, and that's the generalization, and this is the so-called exception.
No joke. Wow.
But again, don't misunderstand. We're not saying the whole nefesh elokis, but even the spark, even that little bit of energy or whatever it is, normally also, because it's energy of a Jew who has a nefesh elokis, it can't ever lose it. In this case, we're saying, yes, it has been, it's almost like saying we know that a Jew cannot convert out.
Mhm.
You can go to every religion in the world and it can have all the waters and blood and sprinkle and this, and do whatever you want. But a Jew is a Jew is a Jew, and he can never lose his status of being a Jew.
Right.
That's true. But
So
here
it doesn't just get encapsulated by klipa. It literally, its essence changes.
In this case.
Wow.
This is a very unique case, and this is why it's, in this regard, it's worse than anything else.
Yeah.
Even if a Jew were to worship Avodah Zarah, but still, that's not the result. Even when the Jew worships Avodah Zarah, so his godly soul is entrapped, but it's still his nefesh elikis. It's still kedusha.
Wow. I want to know more about this. Like, that's intense.
Well, we're out of time.
Yeah.
Let's just finish. We have 2 lines, 2.5 lines.
Okay.
Izes b'meilan inyan fosis faran nor b'shas ma'aseh. Oh, but because of that, this sin is different than every other sin to the flip side. That's why in this case, hand in hand with that exception that we just said in the negative, there's another exception. It's only true while he's sinning, not later. Every other sin, until he does tshuva, that spark of kedusha is still in klipa.
Yeah.
The fact that he moved on with life and he's living a very righteous life, that's beautiful, but that he didn't do tshuva for that, so that energy is still stuck in the klipa.
Okay.
Here we're saying the other way around, because it actually was transformed, and it's not kedusha. That's only at the time of the sin. The moment he stops sinning, even before he does teshuvah, there's no longer such a thing. It's not. And then we're going to get in, and that's why the rule is you can only kill them while they're in the act. As soon as he stopped, he can't kill them. Why not?
Wow.
But then we have to get back to that.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh, is that it for today?
Well, you have a class, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Just wow.
Okay.
Okay, so the bottom of that the column, right?
Yeah, 174.
Okay, 174. Excellent. Wow, there's so much there. Thank you so much, Rabbi Turen.
Sure.
Have a good week, and God willing, see you
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Yes.
Be well.
You too.